Alright, let's talk about all the stats that we have over here in the game, Black Clover Mobile. I know they're Chinese, that's why I translated all of them. I'll show you in a bit. So all the stats over here, I'm gonna explain them. And also I have like a written explanation about these, stats and icons that they have on their skills. So this is like the translation over here. You can either like take a screenshot, or I'll put this in my Discord server as well, so you can just download the image, maybe just have it on your phone and then play the game on your system. So they're pretty easy actually to remember because of the icons that they have. So attack, magic attack, defense, and health or HP. So you can just check the icons over here. Now we move on to a little bit more advanced stats over here, and I've also marked them with different colors so that you can know which one is countering the other one. For example, accuracy, this icon, and the damage res. So these two are countering each other. Damage res will block damage, and the higher accuracy you have, you're gonna ignore the damage res, you're gonna ignore the block and deal damage. So crit rate and crit damage is simple, so the chance to do a crit, and then the damage, the power that you're gonna deal when you're doing the crit, based on these icons. And then we also have this crit res. So this is basically crit rate minus crit res will be the actual crit rate. So again, for example, over here you have 22% crit rate, and there's no crit res on this character unless you build the gears. So I think others, they don't have any, so you have to build the gears later on. I haven't played the game yet, but let's say you have like 10% crit res over here. So if you do the math, it's going to be 12% chance of the crit. So the crit rate will be 12%, and then that's like the percentage that you can do crit. So that's the crit res. And then speed is going to be like, obviously speed changes how fast your mobility goes up or down. The yellow bar under the characters, when you play the game, there's a mobility bar that will increase, and whenever it increases, it's going to be your turn. So speed is just like how fast your characters are and how fast their mobility will go up or down. I mean, if you debuff the enemy or you get debuffed, it's going to go down, and that's how fast the mobility gauge will increase, so that your turn will come up. And then we have these two together, penetration and endurance. So endurance is going to be block, and then penetration is going to be ignoring endurance. This is not ignore penetration, it's going to be ignore endurance. There you go. So you have an endurance to again block, and the penetration to ignore that. So it's not just attack and defense. You also have damage res, accuracy to counter it. You also have endurance and penetration to counter that as well. So those are the base stats. Now we move on to the skills. So we have different icons. Again, since it's Chinese, it might be hard to kind of like translate all of them and understand all of them, but if you have the icons, if you know what the icons do, then it might be easier to see because the numbers are over here. For example, this one is reduced defense on the enemy, so 40% reduced defense on the enemy for 2 turns. Now again, I have all of them translated over here. The red ones is going to be on the enemy, and the blue ones are going to be on yourself. So reduce defense, and the opposite, increase defense, as you see the blue one. And we have these characters over here that can, like, they have this kind of skill. But it's not just like, since they have the skill, then they're great in this kind of thing. No, you gotta check like in the game, and as I said, it's easy to check it out. How we can do it? So for example, these 5 like SSR characters that we have over here, we'll just go and check them one by one. So how to see all the characters even though you don't have them, you just tap on this on like the top right, and then this one, the book thing, you tap on this. And then here, the first one is going to be all the characters, all the mages over here. And then you can just tap on whoever, even you don't have them, for example, Vengeance. And then you can check all their skills. You can also test them out to see their animation. So over here, we have the reduced defense. Was it Vengeance? No, Vengeance doesn't have reduced defense. We have other characters. So let's just go back. For example, Yuno also has this reduced defense, 40% that we just talked about, level 1. But then if you go check Charlotte, for example, Charlotte also has, this one, level 2, reduced defense, 50%. So obviously this is going to be higher. Now if you go check Real, Real also has that reduced defense level 360%. So this is going to be higher than all of them, and obviously he's a debuffer, so he will focus more on these kind of stuffs to, you know, debuff the enemy. As you can see, all of them are red, so you're gonna debuff the enemy with his skills. That's why you got to check them in the game, but it's easy. You can just, you know, check the numbers over here and see who's going to be better than other characters. So reduce attack, increase attack, magic attack, also increase magic attack, and this icon is going to be both of them, reduce attack and magic attack. This one also attack and magic attack. So why do we have different types? So as I said before, some characters have mainly attack and some characters have mainly magic attack. For example, Yuno has magic attack and Asta has mainly attack, and it's totally based on the character, based on the anime. For example, like Asta doesn't have any magic attack, so it doesn't make sense to have the magic attack over here, and that's how the characters are built. Reduce damage dealt, these are the icons. Increase damage dealt on the enemy, increase damage taken on the enemy, and then reduce damage taken on yourself. So this is actually really good, because as you can see here, Lotus, for example, has this one, increase damage taken on the enemy, and also has this one over here, reduce defense. So if you check it out over here, Lotus, so for example this one, you can do the ultimate to reduce the defense on the enemy, level 1 40%, and then increase damage taken on the enemy 40%, and then you have a chance 35% to stun the enemy. This is the stun icon, I also have that over there. And then you have like other stuff over here. This is going to be extend debuff on the enemy. So I'm gonna talk about that in a bit. Let's just move on with the list over here. Reduce crit res, increase crit res, remove something from the enemy. So I wrote something over here because I know it's mainly going to be like remove a buff on the enemy, like increase attack, increase defense, something like that. But we can also have like remove barrier on the enemy. And this one as well, remove something from you. So mainly is going to be remove a debuff from yourself, but sometimes we have like remove you know, dot damage, continuous damage on yourself, or remove stun from yourself, so something like that. Reduce mobility and increase mobility. So as I said, mobility is yellow gauge under the health bar of your character, so when the mobility goes up, it's going to be your turn. And obviously with this one, you can kind of like, in simple terms, like reduce the opponent's speed, for example, over here, so that your turn is going to be like, it's going to get faster. And then this one is going to increase the mobility of your characters. And then extend debuff and extend buff. So extend buff, obviously if you have a buff on yourself, so let's say it's like 2 turns, you did an attack, and then it's going to be 1 turn, and then you use Sully, for example, over here to extend that 1 more turn. And this goes the other way as well, extend debuff on the enemy. So as I was mentioning, so you're gonna do the ult, reduce their defense, increase damage taken on the enemy for 2 turns, and then it's going to be their turn, and obviously they're gonna have this reduced to 1 turn, and then you do the second skill of Lotus to extend the debuff on the enemy. So again, they're gonna have 2 turns of these debuffs. That's why I'm saying like he's super good, and these, you know, effects are super useful. Now we have taunt over here, so these 2 characters can do taunt, but then again it's going to be a chance to do the taunt. For example, Asta, let's just check over here, so he has 60% chance to taunt the enemy. And then if you check Mars, where was Mars? Yeah, this one again, 60% chance to taunt the enemy. Obviously you can increase the chances over here, so this is going to be the taunt like writing, so you can increase this to 100% when you level up the skill. And when you taunt the enemy will only attack that character. So if you taunt the enemy with Mars, the enemy will only attack Mars, and your other characters will be safe from the enemy's attack, unless obviously it's an AoE attack. And then stun the enemy, well, this is easy, you're just gonna stun the enemy. Again, there's a chance to stun the enemy. Let me check over here. So for example, Mars has, well, he will stun the enemy, so it's not a chance. But some characters like I think Lotus has a chance to stun the enemy. It's not a guaranteed one. Yeah, 35% chance to stun the enemy. You can level this up to 50%, but it's going to be for 2 turns if you can, you know, stun the enemy. And then we have reduced damage res and silence. So if you silent the enemy, they can't use skill 2. We also have a total silence, which is not available now in the game. Like there's no character to do that, so it's going to be 2 of this icon. And if you total silence the enemy, they can't use any skill, and they can just do their regular basic first skill. And then we have other like blue stats and buffs over here: extra attack, increased penetration, ignore defense, counter attack. You can do an extra attack, increase crit rate, crit damage. Again, it's the same as the icon in the stats. Increase speed, barrier, heal, immune to mobility, and so on. So those are all the buffs and debuffs and stats, everything in the game. I think this should be pretty useful. I mean, go check the characters, see what kind of effects they have, and then obviously I'm gonna make like a video about the tier list of the character, who is going to be better than the other one, and just wait for the tier list that I'm gonna drop later on. And one thing I want to mention is that when you're checking the skills, they do have a percentage over here. So this is the percentage of attack, so there's going to be 70% of your attack on the enemy. That's why the higher the better. Some of them, they don't have that percentage over here, so this is going to be this isn't like an attacking skill. This is going to be either buff, debuff, something like that. As you can see here, he's going to buff himself up like 30% crit rate and so on. So if they don't have the percentage over here, then it's not going to be an attacking skill. And then you can also go based on this. For example, his ultimate is going to be 140%, and then let's just check Yami as an attacker. Again, 140% over here, 60% over here AoE, and 110% over here single target attack. And then Lotus, even though he's not an attacker, he does have all the skills, is going to attack the enemy and debuff the enemy. That's why as a debuffer, obviously you want to attack and then do the debuffs. So like for example, Asta, he again has the attacking 90%, 40 and 65 over here, as the ultimate is not that great because he's a defender. And then if you check what was this guy's name, I don't remember, but then he has an ultimate 160%. And then if you go to Radas, for example, as a defender, he only has two attacking skill, but this is only 40%. And then the last one, the ultimate, is not going to be an attack, but it's going to give you barrier. This is an icon for barrier, and it's going to be a defender, obviously, and it will help you out that way. So yeah, those are all the stats, all the buffs and debuffs of this game. I hope this video was helpful. Go check at the characters, see which one you think would be better based on the numbers, the stats and buffs and debuffs, and also wait for my character full tier list that I'm gonna drop very soon. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time, have fun and stay tuned.